Hello there! Today I will be talking about the Legend of Zelda series again, specifically the lore and in-universe history of the two titles on the NES that started it all, The Legend of Zelda, subtitled The Hyrule Fantasy over in Japan, and Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Despite being the first games in the series, they are set near the end of their chronology, in an era where the demon King Ganon had previously attacked the kingdom many times in his hunt for the Triforce. However, these are not the only titles this video will be covering. There's another game made and published by Nintendo that is set in this time frame, just going by what the games lay out. The original Zelda Game & Watch, first released in 1989 in the United States. It was developed in Japan, but strangely not released there until 2016. The story of this title is very simple. It seems to be set between both NES titles, although closer to the first game. This is based on the fact that Link is already in Hyrule in this game, which he entered for the first time in the first Legend of Zelda, which still uses his child-aged design from that game as well. This video will cover the relevant backstory of these three games up until the end of Adventure of Link. As always, there will be spoilers, but somehow I doubt that many of you will care about those for 40-year-old NES games. So with that out of the way, let's get started. The story begins many years before the events of the first Legend of Zelda game. In this era, the Kingdom of Hyrule formed a unified country, consisting of the core kingdom, which housed the mind-twisting Lost Woods and Lost Hills, and was located south of the Death Mountain range, as well as large swaths of land north of this range. Furthermore, two large islands off of the eastern coast of these land masses, part of it as well, the easternmost being known as Maze Island. In the area south of Death Mountain were located 9 underground labyrinths, likely old vaults belonging to the royal family of Hyrule, which were shaped like an eagle, a crescent moon, a manji, a snake, a lizard, a dragon, a demon, a lion, and a skull. The skull-shaped one was the largest, and its entrance was located beneath Spectacle Rock on Death Mountain. The mountain itself was guarded by guardian deities known as Lynels. Several towns also dotted the wider kingdom, named for figures of ages past. Most notably, most of the towns were named after the 7 sages from the age of the Hero of Time, whose story was passed down in legend: Raugu Town, Ruto Town, the water town of Saria, Naburu Town, and the mountain town of Darunia. There were also the harbor town of Maido, which held a harbor to the eastern islands of Hyrule, which was likely named after the ancient Kokiri leader, Maido. Finally, there was Kasuto Town, which was not named after any known figure. The people of these towns were faithful, as some worshipped the goddess, likely the goddess Hylia, and some of the villages had churches. In these towns also lived wise men, magicians who were proficient in various spells. In this age also, the royal family of Hyrule used and passed down the full Triforce to maintain order in the kingdom. This likely started after the Triforce was unified in the previous age, after which the Triforce was depicted as shining its golden light down on Hyrule. At one point, a great and wise king held the Triforce, but as his death was approaching, he became concerned. He feared the future of the Triforce, as he wanted it to be wielded by a person with a heart free of evil, a strong character, and one with special innate qualities. However, he was not able to find such a person during his lifetime, and so he decided to split up the Triforce. He kept 2 of the Triforce pieces, those of power and wisdom, and secreted the 3rd piece, that of courage, away. It was sealed in the Great Palace, which sat in the Valley of Death on the eastern Hyrulean islands, along with an old man that acted as its keeper. To claim the Triforce of Courage, one needed to first defeat the Thunderbird, a guardian set up by the king, and a final test against one's own shadow. A barrier was also put in place at the palace's entrance, which would only be broken with the use of 6 crystals. Those crystals needed to be placed in 6 statues that were each located in a different palace scattered across Hyrule. Each statue was guarded by a guardian deity created by the king. Horse Head in Parappa Palace, Helmet Head in Midoro Palace, Rebonek in the Island Palace, Karok in the Maze Island Palace, Guma in the Sea Palace, and Volvagia in the Three-Eye Rock Palace, like the one fought by the Hero of Time in the distant past. They were put in place by the King of Hyrule along with more minor threats in the palaces, such as undead Stalfos, Iron Knuckles serving the royal family, and spiky Miyu slimes, among many others. It should be noted that the Rebonak, found in the Island Palace and the Three-Eye Rock Palace, was an Iron Knuckle, specifically of the blue variety that could shoot sword beams. These were all put in place so foreign enemies would not be able to trespass and claim the Tribes of Courage. In tandem with this, the king put a spell over all of Hyrule that made it so a Triforce crest would appear on people with the correct qualities if they were approaching 16 years of age or older. The person who had the Triforce crest and was able to overcome the challenges to claim the Tribes of Courage would become the next great king of the kingdom. The king also left a scroll detailing this plan to a line of servants that produced the various incarnations of Impa, likely Sheikah, who were numerous in the earliest ages of Hyrule's existence, but few in this era. This family was also left with the 6 crystals and were ordered to hand them and the scroll over to the person with the Triforce crest, if they would appear. The king also entrusted the location of the Triforce of Courage with his daughter, Princess Zelda, which a magician that acted as an aide to the king caught wind of. Eventually, the wise king passed away and was buried in a large graveyard in the northwestern parts of Hyrule. He received his own tomb separate from the other graves, and one of the other graves in the graveyard also led to the Island Palace. When he died, the king's son, a former prince, became the new king. He only inherited the Triforces of Power and Wisdom, while he expected to inherit the full thing. The prince searched the entire kingdom for the Triforce of Courage, but was unsuccessful. During this search, the magician approached the new king and told him about what his sister knew. The king thus started to interrogate Zelda with the whip in the streets. With the magician witnessing the whole affair, Zelda did not budge, so the magician threatened to curse her into an eternal sleep. And she did not tell anything. The magician fulfilled his word and cast his spell in anger. The king tried to stop him, but failed, and Zelda fell asleep. At the same time, the magician also fell dead. Regretting his actions, the king laid his sister to rest in a room in North Castle, palace of the royal family located in northwestern Hyrule. The king also ordered that every girl born of the royal family would be named Zelda from then on, in order to remember the tragedy. As a result, the sleeping Zelda also became known as Princess Zelda I, despite there existing princesses of that name in earlier ages. The king also never found the Triforce of Courage during his lifetime, nor did any of his successors, and nor did a person appear that was worthy of wielding it. Likely due to this, the golden age enjoyed by Hyrule ended, and the kingdom's unity shattered. The extended territories north of Death Mountain and in the eastern seas, while still considered part of the wider Hyrule region, ceased to be part of the kingdom. Its territory in time came to be limited to the area south of Death Mountain. Most humans of Hyrule in this era had round ears as opposed to earlier eras, likely because of the continued thinning of the bloodlines and the decline of the kingdom. Certain lineages, like that of the hero and the royal family, did still have pointy ears, however. The Zoras who had lived in Hyrule and had been at odds with the humans of the realm in this age, also descended further into their aggressiveness, attacking anyone who came close. They could mainly be found in the waters of the small kingdom and the wilds of the eastern island of the Hyrule region. By the time several generations and presumably centuries had passed, the kingdom of Hyrule was a shadow of its former self. During this era of chaos, the great demon king Ganon, who had threatened Hyrule many times in the past, was revived. He led an army of demons into the kingdom with the intent to steal the Triforce as part of his plan to rule the world. In the process, any settlements that existed in the kingdom were likely destroyed, forcing the people to hide in caves across the wilderness. The destruction was so great that the only proof of civilization that remained was a large graveyard in the kingdom's west, where many Guineas roamed. In the end, Ganon managed to capture the Triforce of Power, but not the Triforce of Wisdom. The incumbent Princess Zelda had split it into 8 parts, and hidden them in 8 of the kingdom's secret underground labyrinths to protect them from Ganon. These shards were protected by several fearsome creatures, likely put in place by the royal family. The one-horned aqua mantis dragons, large dodongos, large four-headed piranha plants called manhandla, multi-headed Gleeok dragons, the giant Uniras called Digdogger, and large gomas. Other creatures also inhabited these labyrinths, though it is not entirely clear which of them were agents of the royal family, and which were demons of Ganon who invaded later. At the same time that Zelda hid the shards of the Triforce of Wisdom, she also ordered her nursemaid Impa to escape and find someone who could defeat Ganon. She did this, fleeing through forests and over mountains. Ganon flew into a rage when he caught wind of this and captured Zelda. He had set up shop in the largest labyrinth, the one under Spectacle Rock, and imprisoned Zelda there. Ganon also sent his demons after Impa to capture her, and they almost succeeded, but then a young boy, Link, appeared, who confused the demons to rescue Impa. She told him of her plight, and of the 9 labyrinths in Hyrule. Link then set out for Hyrule, with the intent to save Zelda and defeat Ganon. To do this, he needed to gather the Triforce of Wisdom, as it was needed to enter the labyrinth under Spectacle Rock. Quest followed, during which Link explored all of Hyrule, fought against the demons of Ganon, many of whom roamed the surface, most notably the forest-dwelling moblins, also gathered equipment from the various labyrinths and from the people in the caves, who aided him in his quest, often in exchange for money. Most notably, Link obtained a powerful magical sword, a magical shield, and silver arrows, the latter of which were the only thing that could kill Ganon. Link also ran into demons inside some of the caves, who did not want to fight him for various reasons, told him to keep that a secret. After he had gathered all the shards of the Triforce of Wisdom, Link went to Spectacle Rock and entered the final labyrinth. He braved its large insides and at last confronted Ganon, who he exposed to the light with the Triforce of Wisdom. Ganon was still able to make himself invisible, but in the end, Link defeated him with the silver arrows. This caused his body to crumble to ash and the Triforce of Power to appear. Link claimed it and saved Princess Zelda, before going on another quest. However, Link would eventually return to Hyrule, and Princess became his sweetheart. Ganon's demons, as well as the malice of Ganon's heart, also remained in the kingdom and continued to wreak havoc. Among the destroyed settlements was Kasuto, which came to be teeming with demons afterwards. People of Kasuto relocated to the east and rebuilt their village in a secluded forest, hidden from the demons. In other towns, like those of Saria and Darunia, demons disguised themselves as people in order to blend in. In this time period also, and likely as part of the demon raids, 8 fierce dragons brought ruin to the kingdom of Hyrule. They did not want to live in peace with humanity and desired to rule the world, so they kidnapped Zelda. They retreated to tower-like labyrinths teeming with demons, each of them also obtaining shards of a Triforce piece, which they had likely captured and divided amongst themselves. Link once again set out and climbed each of the towers, having to defeat goblins along the way while being assaulted by Stalfos and ghosts. Up each tower he defeated a dragon and reclaimed the shard of the Triforce. After defeating the final dragon, Link saved Zelda and reassembled the Triforce piece. In the following years, Link helped to rebuild the kingdom, despite demons still being on his trail. They namely wanted to claim his blood and sprinkle it on Ganon's ashes in order to revive him. They also continuously summoned new demons from the underworld in order to sustain their numbers, and it seems the Zoras of the wider Hyrule region allied with the demons of Ganon as well, perhaps out of disdain for the humans they had developed in earlier eras. Many seasons after Ganon's death, when Link neared 16 years of age, the mark of the Triforce appeared on his hand. The spell set by the ancient king of Hyrule had activated, but Link was not aware of this and thus went to Impa to ask her about the mark. She was shocked upon seeing it, before leading Link to North Castle. She led him to the room where Zelda the First was sleeping and told him of the ancient king. She also gave him the scroll of the king, and Link read it, understanding it despite it being written in ancient script he did not know. When he was done, Impa asked Link to find the Triforce of Courage and use the full Triforce to wake the sleeping Zelda and bring peace back to Hyrule as its next king. Link was given the 6 crystals by Impa and thus began a new quest. set out from North Castle and visited the towns in the northwest of the Hyrule region, having to defeat demons along the way as they roamed the wilds of the region. In Rauru town, he visited the father of a local woman, a wise man, and learned the shield spell from him. In the nearby Ruto town, he had to recover a goddess statue stolen by demons to talk to the wise man to learn the jump spell. Link also cleared the palaces in this region and had to make a detour through Death Mountain. To do this, he had to gain permission from a man named Bagu. This was because he needed to cross a river running through the water town of Saria. The riverman in charge of the bridge only let people in town cross. In town, he also learned the life spell after helping a woman find her mirror. After getting permission from Bagu also, Link went through Death Mountain, which was teeming with demons, and briefly returned to the Kingdom of Hyrule. There he entered Spectacle Rock again to obtain a hammer that allowed him to smash boulders and trees that impeded his progress. After returning to the northwestern Hyrule region, Link went to Mido Town. There he helped a sick woman by finding some water of life in a nearby cave, and was rewarded by meeting the wise man of the town, who taught him the fairy spell. Following this, Link set out to the eastern islands. He visited Naburu Town's wise man to learn the fire spell and helped to rescue the child of a woman from Darunia Town from the clutches of demons on Maze Island. This allowed him to visit that town's wise man, from whom he learned the reflect spell. During the visits to some of these towns, Link would also meet knights who would teach him sword techniques. He also cleared the palaces of the islands and stumbled upon the remains of the old Kasuto town. Eventually, he would also discover the new Kasuto town, where he learned a spell that he used to discover an underground shrine containing a magical key that could open any lock. In the end, Link cleared all the palaces and then made his way through the Valley of Death. After an arduous journey, he found himself at the Great Palace, which he braved as well. At its end, he faced the Thunderbird and then his own shadow. When he had defeated both, the old man keeping the Triforce of Courage gave it to the hero. Now had the full Triforce, after which he returned to North Castle and used it to awaken Princess Zelda I. After she awoke, the princess rewarded Link with a kiss. The adventure drew to a close. Following these events, Link would become the King of Hyrule, per the ancient decree of the last wise king. And with that, the story of the NES era of the Zelda series comes to a close. Most of the games that would come out after these games are set in the past, long before the NES titles, provide context and lore for things first established in these games, most notably the Triforce and Ganon. However, it did all start here back in the 1980s, and these games still have quite a bit of story in their own right, unlike some might suggest. Perhaps these games will one day see remakes, which might expand on this era of the Zelda storyline, like what was done for the first entries of series like Fire Emblem and Metroid, but for now it seems Nintendo will mostly leave this era alone. With that, I'm done. I hope you enjoyed this look at the lore of the NES Zelda games and the Zelda Game & Watch game, and hope to see you next time. Goodbye!